Ethan's revenge. Walk out before I embarrass you, old man. That's what he said, loud enough for the whole gym to hear. My wife's personal trainer, young, cocky, built like a statue, puffed out his chest and started walking toward me. Everyone paused. Some looked away. Others watched, waiting for a scene. I kept tying my shoes. Calm. Focused. Just like I was trained to be. My name is Logan Briggs. I'm 44 years old. Retired Special Forces. 12 years active duty. 3 tours. 1 permanent limp. And until this morning, I didn't know the man standing in front of me had been sleeping with my wife. But when I checked the footage from our home security system at 4 a.m., I saw him walk into my house while I was supposed to be out of town. Same man. Same tattoos. Same smug grin. And then I saw my wife. In a robe. Letting him in like it wasn't the first time. No arguments. No phone calls. No confrontation. Instead, I drove straight to the gym. Her gym. His gym. I'd been a ghost in that building for months. Paid the couple's membership, but never showed. Let her have her space. Let her get strong. What a joke. He wasn't her coach. He was her replacement for a husband who'd come back from the military quieter than he left. That morning, I parked 2 blocks away. Walked in with my hood up. Nobody noticed. Until I walked across the mats and sat on the bench in front of him. That's when he said it. Walk out before I embarrass you, old man. I didn't speak. Just looked him dead in the eye and smiled. Small. Controlled. He didn't like that. Said I wasn't man enough for her. Said she needed a real partner, not a broken soldier. He kept coming closer, thinking he could provoke me. What he didn't know was that every insult was just intel. I let him talk. Let the room settle. Let the weight of his ego hang in the air like a heavy bag on a frayed rope. And then I finished tying my shoes. By the time I stood up, it was already too late. This wasn't just about him sleeping with my wife. This was about how he moved like he was invincible. Like consequences were for other people. Like respect was something he could buy with biceps and Instagram followers. He thought he was the alpha. He thought this was his turf. He didn't know the difference between strength and control. Between a fight and a mission. And he sure as hell didn't know who I was. He would. Soon. I adjusted my stance. My body remembered everything. The angles. The timing. The breath before impact. Behind me, I could hear weights clanking. Music playing. Conversations fading. Everything slowed. And then I took 1 step forward. I didn't throw the first punch. I never do. He squared up like this was a bar fight. Chin high. Chest puffed. Arms tense. I've seen that posture before. A man who thinks his strength is enough. But strength without discipline is just noise. I moved slow. Deliberate. Let him think he was in control. Let him throw the first jab. Wild and wide. Like he was showing off, not fighting. It glanced off my shoulder. Didn't even sting. He smirked, like he'd scored some kind of point. I just stood there, watching his breathing. Too fast. Too shallow. Amateur. He had muscle, sure. But no patience. No sense of timing. I waited. Let the gym settle into silence. The music kept playing overhead, but no one was listening anymore. I could feel them staring. Phones in hands. Cameras up. That didn't bother me. This wasn't about beating him. This was about showing him what real control looked like. He came in for a second hit. Stronger. Sloppier. I slipped under, pivoted, and tapped his ribs. Not hard. Just enough. Precision over power. I saw the flicker in his eyes, confusion, doubt. That's when I spoke. 12 years. Special Forces. He flinched like I'd hit him. I stepped back, hands low. No stance. No threat. Just presence. Letting the air do the work. The silence was louder than any blow. Then I turned my back on him. Sat down. Untied and retied my laces. Control. Someone in the back whispered, "He's not doing anything." Exactly. He couldn't handle it. That kind of calm, it unhinges people like him. Guys built on bravado need chaos to feel powerful. Take that away, and they unravel. He charged. I didn't even stand. I shifted left, ducked his shoulder, let him crash into the bench behind me. He stumbled. Swore. I stood then. Quietly. Slowly. No yelling. No threats. Just eye contact. This time, I didn't dodge. I stepped into him. Closed the space. Leaned just close enough for him to feel the weight behind my words. "You were in my house," I said. That was it. His face changed. Pale. Exposed. He swung again. Bigger mistake. I caught his wrist midair, held it, just long enough for him to realize he couldn't move. Then I let go. He stumbled back, shaking out his hand like it burned. The gym was dead silent now. I didn't need to hit him. I'd already broken him. But I wasn't finished. Because this wasn't about a gym fight. Or stolen kisses. It was about something deeper. Something strategic. I had more than bruises to give back. I had evidence. And patience. And a plan that was just beginning. I didn't stay long after it ended. I walked past him as he stood there, red-faced and breathing hard, pretending he hadn't just lost a fight without anyone throwing a punch. I nodded to the front desk girl on my way out. She didn't make eye contact. By the time I stepped outside, I'd already forgotten the sound of his voice. The real damage had nothing to do with bruises or gym pride. That wasn't the war I was fighting. I sat in my truck for a moment, watching the front entrance. Two younger guys peeked out the glass doors. One laughed nervously, like they'd seen something they couldn't explain. They hadn't. They'd seen something they'd never been taught. Restraint. At home, I showered, sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop. The home security system I installed 3 years ago had automatic cloud backups. All motion, all audio, stored with timestamps. Most husbands set up cameras to catch break-ins. I wasn't most husbands. The folder was already labeled, Tuesday, 10:42 p.m. The clip loaded. He walked in like he'd done it before. Slipped off his shoes. Carried a gym bag. My wife met him at the door in a black robe. She kissed him before he could speak. They laughed. Talked. Moved through my house like they owned it. I didn't watch the rest. I didn't need to. Instead, I copied the file. Named it entry_proof. Then pulled the other camera angles. Living room. Kitchen. Upstairs hall. Each one showed just enough. I didn't delete them. Didn't threaten her. Didn't even send a message. I made a folder labeled insurance. Uploaded everything to 3 separate drives. One in a fireproof safe. One in a bank deposit box. One mailed to a private investigator I knew from a job 10 years ago. His instructions were simple. If I don't check in every 72 hours, forward this to my lawyer and hers. That was the thing about guys like him. They were predictable. Always underestimated the man they thought they'd replaced. But I wasn't gone. I'd just been watching. And now I had what I needed. I didn't want revenge in the way most people did. I wasn't looking to hurt anyone. I was building a record. Quiet. Legal. Ironclad. Because once you've seen war, you stop throwing grenades when a scalpel will do. And what came next wouldn't be loud. It would be methodical. She thought she was choosing something better. She had no idea what she was about to lose. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry. I've had sleepless nights before, during recon missions, in freezing hills, under silence orders, watching enemy movement through fog and thermal lenses. This was no different. I sat in the dark, planning. Not revenge. Not rage. Just structure. 3 words kept repeating in my mind, drilled in through years of field discipline. Freeze. Track. Respond. Step 1. Freeze the battlefield. I pulled up every financial account tied to our name. Mortgage. Joint credit cards. Shared savings. Most men don't bother checking until it's too late. I'd been checking for 6 months, quietly, because I'd noticed the shift in her months ago. The long showers after gym nights. The quick phone flips when I walked into a room. The sudden interest in self-improvement, but never when I was around to see it. There were 6 small transfers to an account I didn't recognize. Just a few hundred each. Not big enough to raise red flags, but just enough to test the water. So I froze the joint credit card. Reported suspicious activity. Shut down the overdraft protection. Redirected my direct deposit into a separate account I'd opened under my name alone. She wouldn't notice right away. These things took a day or 2 to echo back. Step 2. Track patterns. I installed software on the shared laptop. Not spyware, just a keystroke monitor that flagged certain keywords. Divorce, bank, transfer, lawyer. I checked her email. Not because I was desperate. Because I'd seen deception before. And it always starts digital. She'd created a folder called Training in her Gmail. Inside, she kept receipts. Hotel bookings. Reservations. All paid in cash, but logged. Sloppy. There was a reservation scheduled for Saturday. 2 nights at a lakeside cabin. Her name plus his initials. It was all I needed. Step 3. Respond. Not with confrontation. Not yet. That's what amateurs do. They yell. They beg. They demand answers. I wasn't looking for answers. I was building leverage. By sunrise, I had a spreadsheet, a timeline, a document labeled assets, one labeled disclosures, and one final file titled exit. She woke up around 7:45, same as always. Showered, checked her phone, asked if I wanted coffee. I said sure, smiled, kissed her cheek, let her believe nothing had changed. Because for her, it hadn't. But for me, everything was already in motion. When she left for work, I waited exactly 11 minutes. Then I opened the hallway closet, pulled down the shoebox she didn't know I'd moved. Inside, I found what I suspected: burner phone, spare keys, a stack of envelopes with cash. A second life. I photographed everything, put it back exactly as it was. By the time she came home that night, dinner was ready. Music playing. House clean. She had no idea. But the clock had started ticking. Saturday came quiet. Sky gray, wind still. She packed light. One duffel bag, workout clothes on top, a bottle of wine in hand. Said she was headed to a wellness retreat. I nodded. Told her to enjoy herself. Even kissed her goodbye. The drive to the cabin took just under 2 hours. I knew, because I was already there. I'd rented the cabin next door 2 days earlier under a different name. Surveillance drones are overkill when the walls are this thin and the blinds left half open. He showed up 15 minutes after she did. Same sweatshirt he wore in my kitchen. Same smug walk. They laughed. Toasted. Lit a fire. I watched from my window. Listened through a long-range mic I'd used overseas to monitor conversations in war zones. Now, it was being used to record 2 cheaters playing house. They talked about me. She said I was distant. Too cold. Always focused. Said she didn't think I'd even care if she left. He agreed. Said I was probably cheating too. Said he was ready to step in if she wanted more. I didn't record it for court. I recorded it to remember. To stay sharp. To stay focused. Emotion dulls instinct. I couldn't afford that now. While they poured wine, I uploaded footage to a secure drive labeled primary evidence. Cross-referenced dates. Matched timestamps with texts. Lined up audio with video. The case was almost airtight. But I wasn't done. I wasn't after just proof of an affair. That's amateur work. I wanted to know how far they were willing to go. At 11:17 p.m., the topic changed. Money. He asked about the house. Whether my name was on everything. She laughed. Said she was working on fixing that. He pressed her. Asked if she could push me to refinance. Maybe sell the place. Liquidate some things. That's when I knew. This wasn't about passion. It was a con. A small one, maybe. But a con all the same. She wasn't just leaving me. She was trying to take the floor out from under me before she walked. At midnight, I turned off the recorder. Sat in the dark. Thought about everything I'd built. Everything I'd kept quiet about. The military taught me that no battle is ever truly won with force. It's won with position. With timing. With knowledge. They thought they had the upper hand. They didn't know I'd been preparing this exit for months. And by the time they got home, the locks would be changed, the bank accounts closed, and the paperwork already moving. Because war doesn't start when the first shot is fired. It starts in silence. And mine had just ended. By Sunday morning, they were still at the cabin. Laughing. Cooking. Taking photos. Pretending they had a future. Back in town, I was in my lawyer's office. Private contact. Retainer paid months ago under a different case name. She greeted me without questions. Just handed over the final packet. Divorce papers. Asset separation. Power of attorney override. I signed them all in silence. The paperwork had teeth. Legal, financial, and strategic. Everything tied to my name was now protected. Anything tied to hers was under scrutiny. The joint account? Closed. The house? Frozen from sale or transfer. Access to retirement funds? Denied. My lawyer asked if I wanted to serve her at work. I said no. Not yet. Because the next move wasn't public. It was personal. I drove home and walked through the house. Slowly. Room by room. Not to reminisce, to confirm. Her things were still where she left them. Hair products in the bathroom. Jewelry on the nightstand. Gym clothes in the hamper. I took photos of everything. Not for evidence. For documentation. When she asked later why things were gone, I wanted her to remember what she lost, piece by piece. By the afternoon, her phone pinged with a notification. She checked the app and saw the joint card was locked. Tried the savings. Declined. Then the text came through. What's going on with the bank? I didn't reply. Instead, I walked out to the garage, pulled down the spare safe I kept bolted behind the old workbench. Inside, backup drives, copies of her messages, my service weapon, disarmed and legal, in one envelope. Inside the envelope, 2 plane tickets. One to a city I'd been eyeing for months. No connections, no past, clean air and cheap land. The other? Hers. Return only. No +1. The moment she got back from the cabin, she'd find the locks changed. Her keycard? Deactivated. Her clothes? Boxed. Left in a storage unit under her maiden name. Paid for the next 6 months. There would be no screaming match. No ugly confrontation. Just silence. She thought I'd come home and fall apart. Maybe cry. Maybe plead. Instead, I disappeared from her life like a switch flipped. Like a wire cut. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. Let it die. She was starting to realize something. This wasn't about betrayal anymore. This was about precision. Because I hadn't just removed her from my life. I'd erased the version of me she thought she could manipulate. The soldier was gone. The strategist had taken his place. She came back Monday evening. I was already gone. The garage was empty. Bedroom stripped. Closet hollow. Kitchen neat, but cold. She must have tried the front door first. Found her key didn't work. Probably thought it was a mistake. Maybe a glitch in the lock. Then she saw the note. Not a letter. Not an explanation. Just a line, printed clean on white paper, taped to the inside of the glass. You made your choices. Now live with them. She called 5 times in 10 minutes. Left 2 voicemails. The first was angry. The second was scared. I didn't respond to either. The texts came next. They started with confusion, then escalated to threats, then back to confusion. She tried calling her bank. Found everything frozen. Tried logging into our cloud storage. Denied. Tried her gym login. Revoked. The world she'd built on top of mine was crumbling. Meanwhile, I was sitting on a bench across town. Clean apartment. No furniture except a table, a cot, and a laptop. Peaceful. I wasn't hiding. I was watching. My attorney had filed the papers that morning. Certified mail. Her name. Her new boyfriend's gym as the delivery address. A professional embarrassment, but a surgical one. No screaming in the streets. No cameras. Just legal notice. Hand-delivered with a signature required. She tried reaching out to friends. Some of them texted me, confused, unsure who to believe. I sent nothing back. Let the silence speak louder than explanations. I knew how this would go. I'd seen it before. In combat, when supplies were cut off. Communications jammed. Support vanished. People broke. Fast. And she was breaking. Tuesday, she posted a story, some cryptic quote about betrayal and strength. I didn't watch it, but someone sent me a screenshot. That's when I knew I'd hit the nerve. Not because she was hurting, but because she was no longer in control of the narrative. She couldn't paint me as the distant husband anymore. Couldn't play the victim to her audience. There was too much documentation, too many timelines, too many witnesses, and I hadn't even released anything yet. I wasn't planning to, unless she forced my hand. This wasn't about vengeance. This was about setting the record straight. She gambled that I would snap, blow up, ruin everything. Instead, I dismantled her exit plan brick by brick, until all she had left was the truth. And now, she had to live inside it. Alone. Because I wasn't coming back. The thing about betrayal is, it's never the beginning. It's always the final move in a pattern you didn't want to see. And now that I was out of the house, out of the noise, the pattern came into view. I started reviewing everything. Not the obvious, not the affair, not the texts, not the money transfers. Those were symptoms. I went deeper. Phone records, location pings, bank statements from the last 18 months. She'd been planning this longer than I thought. The first withdrawal from our emergency fund was 9 months ago, labeled as car maintenance. But the car had been serviced at the dealer, which I confirmed. The cash was never used there. She lied small at first. Quiet. Like testing a fence for weak spots. Then came the business trips. A weekend seminar in Portland. A 3-day spa cleanse with friends. None of those charges matched the receipts. They were ghost trails. Hotel bookings under different names. Meals for 2. Ride shares ending near his building. I tracked it all. Mapped it. Built a timeline. Then I found him. The trainer. Marcus. 31. Certified fitness coach. No stable address. Evicted twice. A record. Not violent, just stupid. Credit card fraud. Petty theft. A history of targeting women 10 to 15 years older. This wasn't about love. It never had been. He was a parasite. She thought she was running away with something new, something exciting. In reality, she was being played just as much as she tried to play me. And I would have felt sorry for her if she hadn't tried to burn my life down in the process. What she didn't realize was, I had one more card to play. Her job. She worked in finance. Mid-level. Nothing flashy. But enough that a company might care if one of their employees was hiding personal fraud, lying on financial forms, or using business hours to conduct a personal affair. I had all of it. The cabin booking was made while she was supposed to be in a virtual compliance meeting. Her expense card, the one tied to her company, had been used during one of those weekends she worked late. It wasn't just about marriage anymore. It was about liability. And I had no intention of using any of it. Unless she pushed. I wrote up a report. Just the facts. Timeline. Receipts. Screenshots. Labeled it contingency. Then I set one final auto email. If she attempts to take legal action against me, leak information, or access protected funds, this goes to her company's HR and compliance departments within 24 hours. I didn't want war, but I had built the walls, laid the traps, cut the exits, and I could walk away now because I knew she couldn't touch me. The texts finally stopped on Wednesday. No more angry questions. No more pleas for explanation. Just silence. Which meant she'd realized something most people never do until it's too late. Sometimes, silence isn't the calm before the storm. It is the storm. She didn't know where I was. She couldn't track the accounts. Couldn't access anything. Couldn't prove anything. And I wasn't hiding. I was just done. She sent one last message. 2 words. You win. But this wasn't about winning. That word implies a competition, rules, 2 sides fighting for the same prize. I hadn't been fighting. I'd been detaching, disassembling everything she tried to build with lies and charm and shortcuts. And in its place, I was building peace. I rented a place upstate. Quiet. Sparse. No neighbors within earshot. No gym full of mirrors. Just pine trees, clean air, and long stretches of silence. I didn't need a new woman. I didn't need therapy memes or rebound hookups or validation from people online. I needed a clear mind, a solid plan, and the freedom to walk into the next phase of my life without dragging her mistakes behind me. One evening, while walking the edge of the property line, I saw a hawk watching from a tree. Still, sharp, unbothered. I understood him. That night, I took all the digital files, the camera footage, the texts, the receipts, and stored them in one last encrypted drive. Labeled it final. Then I shut the laptop. I wasn't going to publish anything. I wasn't going to expose her. I didn't need to. She'd already done that to herself. Word had gotten around. The gym let her go quietly, not for the affair, but for the unprofessional conduct caught on security systems. Clients dropped. Her trainer boyfriend had moved on by Thursday. She never saw it coming. I did. Men like that always move on. They're built for escape, not responsibility. I heard from a mutual friend that she'd moved in with her sister, that she was figuring things out, that she was working on herself. She never reached out again, not with words that mattered, because I'd made it clear there was nothing left to save. And the loudest message I ever sent was sent without saying a thing. It's been 6 months. The air here is different, colder, cleaner, the kind of air that makes you breathe deeper, slower. I wake up before the sun most days, not because I have to, but because I want to. There's a rhythm now. Coffee, silence, a walk along the ridge. No buzzing phones, no lies to unravel, no tension in the chest pretending everything's fine. Just me. The cabin is small. 1 bedroom. No TV, no distractions, just space for thinking and doing. I built the shelves myself, laid the stone along the fireplace by hand. There's peace in labor when the work is yours. I still check the news, still read reports, still watch the world go loud. But I stay quiet, because I've learned something most people never will. Peace isn't given. It's built, brick by brick, decision by decision. And sometimes that means walking away, not with rage, not with noise, but with stillness. She never tried to come here, never tried to apologize, That part surprised me at first. But maybe she knew the version of me that would have listened didn't exist anymore. I spoke to my lawyer once after it all ended. She asked if I felt closure. I told her closure was a lie. What I found wasn't closure. It was clarity. I don't miss her. That surprised me too. I don't replay the good times. I don't search for what went wrong. I know what went wrong. She chose chaos. I chose order. Some nights I sit outside under the stars, Scout, the dog I adopted from a shelter, curled up at my feet. The wind cuts through the trees like a quiet blade. And I think about how close I came to becoming a version of myself I wouldn't recognize. If I'd shouted. If I'd fought her in the street. If I tried to shame her online. But I didn't. Because I wasn't raised to destroy what hurt me. I was trained to outlast it. To move like a shadow. To strike without noise. To disappear with everything that mattered and leave nothing behind for those who didn't deserve it. And that's what I did. I didn't just survive the betrayal. I buried it. With discipline. With silence. With precision. Now, I live in a place where nothing needs to be said. Where the loudest thing in my life is the creek that runs behind the cabin. Where my peace isn't fragile, it's earned. Because the final blow wasn't revenge. It was walking away without flinching. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.